YouTube, how's it going? The GOAT House is back, and today I'm ranking my top 25 free agents for the 2021 offseason. We'll talk about more than 25 guys, but some honorable mentions, some guys I just want to mention, actually, and then we'll go from 25 to 1. These aren't player rankings based on their past performances necessarily or based off this year. You know, free agency signings are now and for long term, so a lot goes into this, so I'm going to break it down for you guys. Really excited about this video. We have a bunch of free agency off-season content in general already up and a lot more to come. We have you covered fully here, even for playoff coverage, so join us for all that. Subscribe, smash that like button, much appreciated. Check out our Twitter, full NFL coverage on there, talking live during games, talking about breaking news, my thoughts, my predictions. You guys vote for a lot of things on there. Link in the description and comments for anything on the screen here. You'll find the links down below. Anything that you need, you'll see it. Check it out. Be much appreciated. Yeah, I mentioned that Twitter. You guys are voting right now. You guys have the fan vote for our weekly picks every week. So you guys decide who wins it. The Bills are beating up the Chiefs pretty good right now. The Packers are beating up the Bucks. So maybe a little surprising. Two teams that lost to that opponent during the year. At Goat House NFL, check it out. You guys are voting for Players of the Week as well. I mean, a lot. Breaking news we're talking about. And I'll pin a link in the comments for this. The receiver class for free agency, which I'm about to rank here. I mean, all the players together. But it's very interesting. You could argue any of these guys, in terms of talent right now, in terms of upside. Juju's pretty young. There's some other guys you guys can comment after you vote. You get likes, you earn points, you make your way on the leaderboard, and you can see here top 10 places each week win Amazon gift cards. So pretty cool. And you have a shot to win those gift cards. Let's go to number 25. Marcus May, the safety from the Jets. He kind of filled in that Jamal Adams role for the first time in his career. And if you guys have been with us for a long time, since we started maybe a few years ago, I've been saying Marcus May is not a free safety, and that's where he played with Jamal Adams because it felt like they had two strong safeties, two guys that can do a bit of everything, but they're not really deep coverage guys. Strictly that they can be that. Marcus May kind of gets more of that Jamal Adams role where he plays both safety position, roams around a bit, and they had Ashton Davis who can kind of do the same thing, and it really helped Marcus May. So, and those are the types of safeties that are really becoming valuable and taking over in today's NFL. We saw what the Jets received for trading Jamal Adams, and Marcus May doing some similar things and he actually probably played at a better level than Jamal Adams this year. That's pretty crazy. Not that I'm saying he's better in general, but it's going to be 28. So I ranked him at number 25. I think teams are kind of looking for these types of safeties. It's kind of today's era type of safeties. So, And we're going to see how good the free agency class is because there's guys that, and I'll have some honorable mentions at the end, but there's guys, that are lower ranked that would normally be higher ranked in most free agency class, or guys that we won't even talk about that are really good signings. And like we do every year, we're going to grade every single signing in the NFL. One of my favorite videos. We got a bunch of videos. We will grade every signing in free agency, so we're really looking forward to that as well. 24, I got JAMEIS Winston in here. I'm still somewhat of a believer in JAMEIS Winston here. Is he going to go out and win the Super Bowl? Probably not, but the guy can throw the damn ball, and the ability to be able to, learn in New Orleans helps a lot as well. But, in today's era, it's just you got to go out and score. You got to go out and score, and there's some teams that just cannot move the ball, cannot score, and they go on streaks of not being able to put them enough points. And, you definitely would benefit from adding a guy like JAMEIS Winston because he can put points on the board. He can move the football. He has that big play downfield ability. And I think his rank really shoots up. And that's kind of the flaw of the rankings. They're here to kind of get an idea, but it really depends on what team they all go to and how they fit. And then I guess it can change a little bit. But if Winston goes to a team that has a very good defense, I would like that a lot because he'll turn the ball over. I don't know if he'll turn the ball over I don't think he will, as many times he did a year ago. But if he goes that good defense where he's scoring points and maybe he'll turn the ball over, the defense can help him out a bit, and that'll be ideal. He's only 27 years old. That's pretty good age for quarterback because prime is usually, 30 and on. You see who's in Brady and Rodgers, where they're at in their age, their career, how well they're playing, and, they're still alive right now. So I'm still a believer in JAMEIS Winston. Especially for those teams that have good defenses, or especially for those teams that, have, need more production on offense in general. That's how you're going to get it. Yeah, he'll turn the ball over a little bit, but it might be a risk I'd be willing to take depending on the team. So I still like Jameis Winston. I guess the question is, yeah, why did Taysom Hill start over him? And Taysom Hill was solid, I suppose, but Teddy started over Taysom last year. They must have saw something that they didn't like a whole bunch from Winston. So I guess that's the question. Number 23, John Johnson. So the second safety we're talking about here. He had a career year, I'd say, for the Rams. Was very good in coverage. It's a guy that can move around a bit as well, but in terms of strong and free. But he's gonna be more of a cover safety, which he was really good at. A lot of those guys you question, are they really good because the system they're in, the scheme they're in, the talent that's around him. But I saw a lot of one-on-one coverage opportunities and just a lot of good play from John Johnson this year, and he's always been good, as long as he was healthy. A year ago he wasn't too healthy. He's only 25 years old, which is fantastic. So I ranked him at 23. Maybe a Marcus May type safety is a little more valuable. I think John Johnson's just a better overall player, and being 25 years old, I think, is huge. So I think he was a big reason why that Rams secondary was such a lockdown secondary. I know Jalen Ramsey was a big piece of it, but it takes more than one guy for it to be a lockdown secondary. So I like John Johnson quite a bit. 22 is Chris Carson. I think he's a very underrated, maybe one of the more underrated running backs. Maybe why he's not ranked higher is because, a value goes into these ranks as well. How does somebody value the running back? Is somebody else going to pay him a ton of money? I could see a team like the Falcons being interested if they can clear the money, that is. That might be an Arthur Smith type of running back. It's definitely a Seahawks type of running back, and I feel a little more comfortable right here. I don't know. We're going to move me over. So I think the Seahawks would like him back. It's not the end of the world if they don't, as long as a guy like Rashad Penny's healthy. I think he's a very, very good running back, though. He's one of the few power backs that work in today's NFL. That's because he has a lot to his game here. So he's only 26. I guess it's about finishing a season, not getting those minor injuries kind of build up. He's a tough dude, but I guess it's about finishing a season and getting a complete season. But I like him. I think he's a pretty good running back here. He's definitely a starter for. He would start on several teams. He's better than several teams starter currently. So I like Chris Carson. 21, Joe Thuney from the Patriots. Very good guard. Somebody's going to get an upgrade at guard, whoever gets him. He's 28 years old. Very consistent as well. He got franchise tagged this past year. So there's a lot of guys that have the franchise tag on them. Those guys are included in this video, obviously, because they're free agents. I didn't include the guys that have an option on them currently. So I did not rank the option guys. But, yeah, Joe Thuney, solid guard. Somebody's going to get an upgrade there, in my opinion. So he's ranked at 21. 20, another Patriot, J.C. Jackson, who was an interception machine, a playmaking corner. He ranks 20. His age is 25 going into this season. Everyone would like a playmaking corner. The question with him is, he was kind of the number 2 for the most part, number 2 corner, so not covering the top targets. Gilmore did miss some time, though. But there was games where he either makes that play, gets his hands on the ball, or he gets beat. The Jets game was actually a bit of a mess. So there's he's not he's never going to be really a lockdown corner. He's either going to be making those plays or he can be beat at times. So maybe that's why he's not. The stat watchers may put him higher than number 20, but he's number 20 in a really good class. So I think highly of him. I liked him a lot out of Maryland. I had a 3rd round grade out of him. So I knew the Patriots got a steal. Undrafted for J.C. Jackson. So I do like him a lot. Playmaking corner, pair him with more of a lockdown corner. That would be ideal, opposite of him. But the Patriots very well could end up getting him back, of course. We'll have our predictions and fits in the future, near future, with those videos. We got you covered. We got everything. Juju Smith-Schuster, number 19. He happens to be jersey number 19, too. Just realizing that, just seeing the picture. He's only 24. That's the big thing about Juju. He's only 24 years old going into the season, and that's pretty huge because he's got some upside. He's already shown us he can play. I guess sometimes disappears, and then some teams kind of write him off because of the distraction type thing. I'm not really too worried about the TikTok stuff. I'm not really too worried about that. I wish he would stop. Perfect world, but. Stop trying to be a distraction. I guess it's more the media that makes him a distraction. I didn't like, small thing, but I didn't really like him dancing, while they're getting their ass beat to the Browns on the field. I just want guys that are kind of strictly business here. So I guess some teams, the old school coaches could think the same way and maybe take it a little more serious than I am. And kind of disappearing at times and, does his value go down and the other receivers maybe being more talented at the moment? Does his value go down? So it's definitely interesting. Somebody's probably going to pay up. I mean, where the Steelers can't pay him, so I think most likely the Steelers lose him. But I got him at number 19 for now. But that's a guy that could end up being one of the top guys when it's all said and done. So we'll see. 18, TREY hendrickson, another really, another tough one to rank. Like, you can possibly rank him in the top 10. I got him at 18. He's only 26 years old. First year getting, starting time, I guess, for the Saints. And he was very, very productive. The good thing is, it was kind of good and bad. He didn't play. This is kind of the bad, I guess. He didn't play as many snaps as you would like him to. What's the reason for that? Why isn't he playing a Cam Jordan number of snaps in a game? That's kind of the bad. So what's the situation there? Our team's going to be afraid to go all out, because they didn't, prospect-wise, they didn't really, nobody really had that high of a grade. Some teams still live by that. And what was the reason? What are we missing here? Maybe other teams could figure it out. The good thing is, he got that much production, that many sacks without being, without playing Cam Jordan number of snaps. So that's pretty ridiculous. So he's got a ton of upside here. I'm curious to see what his value is at. Again, is another team going to pay, edge rusher money, good edge rusher free agent money for him? Out of 32 teams, and it's not really out of 32 teams because how many teams could pay him, how many teams can use him. So maybe about half the league, I suppose we'll say. Out of, half the league, somebody's bound to, pay some big money. So we'll see. That's definitely an interesting one. Again, he's only 26, so that's fantastic. 17, Hunter Henry. It's another one where I can kind of debate with myself that maybe he's a top 10, maybe even top 5 guy here, because we see the mismatched tight ends, the matchup problem tight ends are really a problem in their game changes and high-powered offenses. He had very much a career year. Has had an injured past, stayed healthy this year, so that's great. Only 26, but could he be used like these mismatched tight ends like Travis Kelce, Darren Waller? It kind of was this year with Justin Herbert. It might be key for them to continue to have that high-powered offense for the Chargers. But then you got a guy like Kyle Pitts in the draft. Would teams be confident? Some teams, maybe the Chargers, be confident in let's land this guy cheaper, maybe a little more athletic too. So kind of all over the place. He's a very talented guy. If he's healthy, and could be that mismatch problem for defenses. But I got him at number 17 for now, and he's 26 years old, so that, he's young, like I said. 16, SHAQ Barrett. We're going to got a lot of these guys in a row that are kind of risky, kind of tough to figure out, what their value is going to be. SHAQ Barrett really had 2 good seasons, these back-to-back seasons in his career. Was a backup, couldn't really find his way on the field for the Broncos. So that's interesting. Goes to the Buccaneers, Todd Bowles' scheme, and has some success. Could he be feeding off the guys around him? Yeah, he definitely could be a little bit. There's times where he has those wild plays. There's times where he disappears from going against really good tackles. He's 28 years old. There's some younger ones, so it's tough. I originally had rough draft wise. I kind of had him ranked a little higher, but I don't know, because a lot of goes into this. Like I said, their talent, the age / potential, value, by position. Edge rusher is very valuable. How other teams besides the Buccaneers will value him. I think there's a lot of teams that probably would kind of back off a little bit in terms of his price point, which would be pretty high for a free agent edge rusher. I think they would kind of back off a little bit, because the question is he going to work in our scheme? Does he need to feed off other? There's going to be some questions. Not saying that's the actual case. But he does have some, at times he has some high-end talent, that he presents on the field. So I do like SHAQ Barrett. I guess one of the risky ones. REDDICK, I think a lot of people view him as risky, and some teams could, hold off a little bit. But, there's a reason he really only had one good year, is because he was playing out of position. I had him graded as a first-round edge rusher out of Temple, and for some reason that coaching staff moved him to inside linebacker. Was confused at the time, still confused today. Goes back to edge rush as an edge rusher, and he has a highly productive year. Highly productive. So I'm, it's a little risky calling him a top 15 guy, I guess, but I'm really not too worried. You play him in the right spot. I think he's a talented dude, and he actually has upside, being that kind of the first year at the NFL level playing full-time. They kind of switched him back at the end of last year, but the first year full-time playing the right spot and being only 26 years old, it's a little risky, but there's a lot of upside, and I think you have talent right away, production right away for the team that gets him. So definitely an interesting one. 14, I got Taylor Moton from the Panthers. We knew this was an upside guy, even coming out of college, and this is an upside tackle. He's got a bright future, definitely a starter. And he's kind of hitting that a little earlier than expected, actually, as well. I thought the Panthers' offensive line would struggle a little bit. I think a guy like Taylor Moton, really, his play really helped that offensive line. He played fantastic this year. Tackles, starting tackles are so rare. They're almost like quarterbacks. Teams kind of just make sure they extend them before free agency because they're just there's guys that should be backups you would think that are starting because there's a lack of them and it's such an important position. So these guys rarely become available. Even by trade, anything, they rarely become available. So I think it's a top 15. I got him at 14. Obviously, free agent. Somebody's going to get a good starting tackle here. 27 years old. It's a pretty good age. There's guys in their prime. Well into the 30s. So I like Moton a lot. I think that'd be a big time pickup for some teams there. Chris Godwin at 13. He's only 25. That's fantastic. He's starting to get better. We kind of thought after last year. I moved him down after my first where I had him, I suppose, first draft. He's hurt himself a little bit, I guess, this year. Last year was fantastic, showed all the upside. He was kind of feeding off being more that Aryan special slot receiver role where he's kind of always open. But he was good after the catch, big playability. And then this year, had the injury, which I'm not really worried about the injury, but since then he's dropped the ball a little more. His separations hasn't been as good. His route running kind of hit or miss. So people are gonna view it. Is he schemed open? Why is he struggling? He only had one good year. Is he kind of is he as good as last year? So I think it's more. It's not really doubt, but it's more questions with him. And I have him at 13. So obviously I think he's a really good player. A lot of upside. 25 years old. Big playability. But I think teams will be scared a little bit. I think teams won't want to pay maybe what he's asking. I think they'd rather go in on some of the other receivers or even cheaper receivers. So I think it's likely the Bucs get him back. I don't think he's going to get what he's asking. Well, we'll see what he's asking for. But, so I think there is some risk. Yeah, one good year. Is it like kind of schemed open type situation? So, I did move him down a little bit. Hasn't really had a good playoff so far. Only 2 games. He's still alive, though. So we'll see. Maybe he can help himself. Maybe he can definitely help himself there. Number 12 is going to be Aaron Jones. So he'll be the best free agent running back, a top 5 running back in the NFL. And I guess brings up the value of the running back position. There's a big chunk of teams that don't want to pay running backs no matter how good they are. So that kind of hurts him a little bit. I suppose he's only 26. He's playing the best ball. I think he's adding some more of the receiving ability to his game. And then people probably, question, it seems the Packers use 3 running backs and, all 3 have success when in there. So maybe is it a scheme thing, a system thing? Is it a Packers thing? I think he's easily the best one of the bunch, though, and he shows that in the field. And he shows he's getting better. So somebody's going to get a potential top 5 running back in any given year if they get him. So it just depends on the price point, how much teams are willing to pay. Again, at the end of the day, somebody's going to get a really good football player here. So I got him at number 12 for Aaron Jones. Number 11, Brandon Scherff. Going to be the best guard here, for free agency, 28 years old. So he's kind of entering that prime area. Really consistent. Yeah, can he stay on the field for the whole year, I suppose the question. But yeah, it feels like he's getting better. And usually offensive linemen are a little scary because, they're as good as a unit. So sometimes you pluck a guy from a really good unit and he doesn't really end up as good in your unit that you're trying to make better. But Scherff was in a pretty bad unit and he's playing top-notch, interior offensive line ball. So that's a good look. I just don't see him. The only concern, I guess, is somewhat of an injury concern, but I just don't see him going to another team and just being bad all of a sudden. I don't think that's really a possibility at all. So, I got him at number 11. Somebody's going to get a very good starting guard and improve their offensive line by getting Brandon Scherff here. Now we're on to the top 10. How about Will Fuller? Will Fuller, for some teams could be a little higher than, another receiver we'll talk about in a little bit. I guess the question with him is, he's had some injuries in the past. This year he missed because of the suspension, so not injury, but he's had injuries in the past. So I guess that's the question there, maybe what moves him down a little bit. Only 27 years old. He's kind of today's era type of receiver. He's one of the fastest receivers in the NFL for sure. Electrifying speed and quickness. His route running and footwork is actually getting better and better. He was really starting to get good right before being suspended. Like that took another step. It went another level. He's such an important important piece for Deshaun Watson and the Texans offense. We'll see if Deshaun Watson's still there after this offseason gets through. Who knows? But he's so important to them. You know, it felt like even when they had DeAndre Hopkins, it felt like when they were winning, when they were at their best ball, it was when Will Fuller was on the field playing his game. You know, not even DeAndre Hopkins, even though DeAndre Hopkins overall better receiver. But yeah, it's such an important piece. And again, you know, he can fit any team. He's going to come in there, get separation. At the end of the day, that's the most important thing for today's receivers, you know. So that's a big-time free agent. You know, I saw the Packers try to trade for him, with the Texans kind of hinting they're ready to move on from him. I don't think so, because he's so important to them. So we'll see. We'll see if Deshaun Watson's there. But Will Fuller, big-time receiver here in free agency. Number 9, Justin Simmons, so the top-ranked safety by a long shot for me, you know, in free agency. And he's a free safety. You know, some teams don't want to go all out paying free safeties because they're not, you know, they're not that important in a lot of schemes. But I think he's just such a damn good playmaking safety there. The Broncos put him basically in center field. He's a single high free safety, and he had to cover a lot of ground. Kareem Jackson a lot of times up in the box and just, you know, getting downhill at runs a lot. And their corners they're really thin at corner as it was, and they got even thinner, you know, weaker at corner as the year went on. So this guy covered an insane amount of ground. And if you put him, you know, maybe in a better situation, which the Broncos situation actually could be a very good one, if they, you know, get healthy and retool it. But if you put him in a situation where you take less stress, less responsibility off him, he's going to get a ton of interception. He's going to be making plays like crazy. So even though some teams won't value the free safety, I think if the right team kind of just decides to do that because of how good Simmons is, they're going to be making plays. They're going to be a playmaking defense because of that. They could become a lockdown defense and a playmaking. You know, if we're talking a top-tier defense here. The Broncos like him back because, like I said, he's so important. He's only 27. He's getting better. You know, last year was really where he started to pick. He was already good. I had a high grade on him at a Boston college, but last season is where really he took that step, and he was just as good this year. So I like Simmons a lot. Top 10 free agent for me. 8, another receiver, Allen Robinson. So here's a debate between him and Will Fuller. You know, Robinson's definitely known as the better receiver right now, I suppose, if you ask anybody. But maybe if you ask somebody, which one would you rather have? You know, in today's NFL, was Fuller a year younger, but that really didn't play a part too much. But the name of the game now is separation. You know, so some people may rather have the speed and separation of Will Fuller. Allen Robinson's not a big separation guy. He's a physical guy, contested catcher guy, but he's been just so consistent at making plays, big plays. He's good after the catch as well. So and that's what poor quarterback play as well. So I think overall Robinson a little better, but it's debatable. 28 years old. Yeah, if he finally gets a good quarterback, who knows what will happen. Some teams some teams will refuse to draft the guys kind of like this in today's draft classes. They go straight for the speed or separation guys. So some teams might lay off, and it depends, I guess, at his price point, because the Bears, he's been trying to reach a deal apparently the last year. And the Bears don't want to pay him what he's asked for. So maybe he's asking too much for a guy that, maybe that's what it is for a guy that's not getting a bunch of separation, but is still very good receiver. Will they franchise tag him? So we'll see what happens. And apparently last time he was a free agent, he turned down the Packers for the Bears. So that was pretty interesting. So we'll see where his head's at as well. But a top 10 free agent, and he ends up being number 2 receiver for me, free agent wise. With Fuller debatably better, in terms of going forward, and Godwin has moved down for me a little bit. Yannick Ngakoue, I got at 7, so I'm still very much a believer in Yannick Ngakoue. Some people will probably have him a lot lower because he's kind of been bouncing around. Some teams that maybe didn't have the best attitude in Jacksonville and then went to the Vikings, and the Vikings already gave up on him after that. Went to the Ravens. It was pretty solid for the Ravens. Could have done a little more. I mean, the guy's a proven edge rusher. He's got a lot of potential. He's 26 years old. I think he just needs to stick on the right team, and it could be the Ravens, and just have him develop on a team. Vikings didn't really view him as a fit. He could definitely be more of a 3-4 edge rusher like he was in Jacksonville, like he was in Baltimore, not so much Minnesota. I thought he was playing pretty well for the Vikings, though. I'm still shocked about that trade. He actually led the Vikings in sacks. He played 6 weeks and not a lot of snaps, looking at the first week because he just got there, and he still led the team in sacks. So pretty ridiculous. So I still like Ngakoue. He can give you production and play right now. Edge rush is so important. 26 years old, got a lot of potential. He just needs to find his home and stick it out there, and they need to stick it out with him, and he needs to continue to grow, and it could be the Baltimore Ravens. He's looked pretty good for them. They got a load of edge rush free agents. They do have some money, but they got a load of free agents at the same position, so we'll see who they choose, what they end up with there. 6 is going to be Trent Williams, left tackle from the 49ers. He's 33 years old. That could be prime sometimes for some tackles. You do sort of worry about, wear and injuries at 33. On top of that, Trent Williams has had a career of elite play, but some injuries and missed some games from because of his situations in Washington as well. But yeah, so that, a really good potential elite at any given time left tackle, usually a top tier. And 6 is pretty top tier, but usually a top 3 maybe guy. But because, could there be wear at age 33? Could the injuries pop back up? He didn't play the full season, this year. Which is the question there, but teams are going to be dying to get a guy like this. I do remember, though, during the draft, the Vikings actually had a deal for Trent Williams, and he refused to play for them. And then so the Niners end up doing a deal a little so they got, that was a big win for them. They got a little cheaper than what was the deal with the Vikings, so, and he wanted to play for the 49ers. So are there teams that he just doesn't want to play for? So a lot of questions there, but you rarely see this good of a tackle hit free agency. So he's number 6. We're on to the big top 5. Number 5 is LAVONTE David, one of the best, I'm about to say inside linebackers, one of the best off-the-ball linebackers in general in football. And why that's big time is because right now he's playing a 3-4 inside linebacker role, but he played at a very high level for a bit in a 4-3 outside linebacker role. So he can play in, he can play out, as long as he's off the ball there. He can blitz. He's very good at stopping the run. He's very good at covering. Total package type of guy, 31 years old. You probably wish, a little, if you're going to sign him to a long-term deal, you probably wish he was a little younger, but I don't have anything wrong with that. It seems like he's playing his best ball. He's staying healthier at these days. Earlier in career, ridiculous talent, was getting hurt. Staying healthy now, like I said. It's a do-it-all type of guy as well. So I think he's a top 5 guy. The Buccaneers, he's so important to that Buccaneers, a captain, a leader for that defense. They got to get him back if they want to. This defense is getting better by the day, really, it feels like. So they're going to want to keep him. They got money, but they got a lot of big-time free agents. So we'll see. We already went through some of them too. So he's number 5. Number 4, Leonard Williams. How about the season he had, man, for the Giants? I like him where he's at right now in terms of position and scheme, 3-4 defensive end. If you played in a 4-3, I can see him playing 3 technique defensive tackle. I could still see him playing end in a 4-3 as well because he's a good pass rusher. He'd probably play more end still. So he's pretty talented. I think you fit either one, but I prefer him in a 3-4. 27 years old. It's a great age. He's off a monster year, and sometimes you don't want to base things off of 1 year. And he was a little cold before that. The Giants traded for him. He didn't do too much, and you started to worry a little bit. The last couple years on the Jets, he didn't do too much. But I knew he had the talent in him. I was, top 3 player on my board out of USC, was a freak of a dude. Right away for the Jets, he was that good, too. Like, this isn't a surprise. This is Leonard Williams. Something happened in there. He went a little cold, but still was a good player. But now you can just see it. He was a monster this year, stopping a run, but mainly getting after the quarterback. This is a game-changer impact type of guy. Again, only 27. That's fantastic. He's going to get paid. He's going to get paid. He's number 4 free agent for me. It'd be a big-time, huge signing for anybody. We're on to the top 3. Number 3 is a wide receiver, Kenny Golladay. I'm a huge Kenny Golladay fan. I would like him to stay healthy. He had some minor injuries. I'm wondering if he kind of was unhappy that he didn't get a deal yet. Maybe that played a part. It felt like the Lions season was over. Who knows? I guess I don't really like that attitude, but Kenny Golladay is so talented. At any, I wouldn't be surprised. We see like the number 1 receiver kind of changing by year. It's not really a surprising guy. Last year we're talking about Michael Thomas. This year, Devontae Adams. So the guys in that range, any one of them really could end up being the number 1 receiver on a season. Even Diggs we talk about this year. So it wouldn't surprise me if next year Kenny Golladay, wherever he is, we're talking about him as the best receiver in football. Not necessarily saying it's going to happen. I think he has top 5 talent for sure. But maybe in a couple years from now, we're talking about the best receiver in football. I think he's a total package guy. I think that what stands out the most is his downfield jump ball / contested catch ability, which usually those guys aren't really the best in football. They're very good, but the more the separators are the best in football. But on top of that, he is a separator. He's so good after the catch. catch. He has some deep speed. You can give him the ball underneath. Everything. I was very high out of him on Northern Illinois. He's one of my draft hits, probably all time. So I'm excited about this. The Lions definitely need him back. He works well with Stafford, but some team can get a potential top tier receiver, maybe the number one receiver in the future. Of the future in football here. So I'm a big fan of Golladay. Total package type of guy. Number one receiver type of abilities, So, we'll see what he gets. I hope he stays healthy. I'm not really too worried. I'm not really too worried about that. It's in the back of our minds, so I can't wait to see what happens with Kenny Golladay. Could end up getting the franchise tag. Will he be happy with that, though? We'll see. Number 2, Bud Dupree, I got 2. I'm probably higher on him than most people, I suppose. Edge rusher, just pass rush in general is just so important in today's NFL. 27 years old, he's playing the best ball of his career the last 2 years. Earlier in the year, he was almost having a defensive player of the year type season. In that range. I thought at times he was playing better than TJ Watt. Not that he is better than TJ Watt, but then he got hurt. So I guess that's the only thing about, we'll have to hear more about that. I haven't heard anything that just makes people that worried about it, so that's good. Players are coming back from ACL injuries, a lot easier, so that's good as well. But I guess that's the knock on it. But this guy's legit. I know he's coming from a good supporting cast, like a scheme as well, but that's defense got a lot worse as soon as Bud Dupree got hurt. It went from elite best defensive football to really not in the conversation, but still good. And he was creating for his teammates, and people kind of bring that up. He's around T.J. Watt, Cam Hayward, Stephon Tuitt. He must be getting created for too much. I didn't really think that was the case. I thought he was creating for his teammates. I thought he was making impact plays, creating quarterback hurries, making them make mistakes. And he gets pressure from any way. From the edge, they see him kind of stunt, almost like a blitz, come from the inside. So, I think he's a insanely, big-time impact player. He's getting better, clearly. So I think he's actually got more, better football coming. He's a creator, in my opinion. So I like Bud Dupree quite a bit here. I think somebody's getting a game changer, and we see this time of the year in the playoffs, teams that have these guys that can consistently create plays, get after the quarterback, that could win you championships. So the value of the position, the value where he's at in his career, minus the injury, values him high for me. And then number 1 is pretty obvious, Dak Prescott. Dak Prescott, 28 years old, quarterback prime is usually around 30, but some of these younger guys kind of feels like they're in their prime in the younger age, but yeah, a very consistent, good quarterback in my opinion. He kind of fits today's style too. He can escape pressure. He can use his legs to win, but he's not a run-first quarterback, obviously, so he's exactly today's style. Can throw the deep ball, has the big playability, can, get the ball out quick, can read defenses, everything. So see how much better the Cowboys are with him too. So it's pretty clear cut, the number 1 quarterback. Quarterbacks like this do not hit free agency. That's why Kirk Cousins got all that money when he did, because quarterbacks like that don't hit free agency. We're talking about Dak Prescott, who's definitely better. So he's number 1. You got to think the Cowboys get him back. We'll see what happens though. But you would think. Let's talk about some other guys here. Shelby Harris, I think, is one of the more underrated players in really in all of football, in my opinion. He's up there in his 30s a little bit, but he's playing the best ball of his career. He's kind of a disruptor, gets his hands in the ball a lot, pass deflection machine. Will stop the run, will get interior pressure. I was surprised about how cheap the contract was last year because it's an impact player, so that's definitely an underrated guy to look out for. Leonard Floyd had a monster season. He was pretty bad with the Bears, to be honest. He had some good years, some good moments, but so teams are going to be worried, is it kind of a system thing with the Rams? Teams aren't going to want to pay a whole bunch, so that's kind of the question with him. Melvin Ingram is a game-changing pass rusher because he can do so many different things. He can Rush is more of a 4-3 end. Rush is more of a 3-4 outside linebacker. Rush, stand off the ball and rush from the inside. He get his hand in the dirt on the inside as well. He can do so much thing. When teams are game planning, they're watching Ingram. They're game planning for him. So he's a really good player. He's getting up there in age, and he hasn't really been able to finish the season recently. So that's why he's not in the top 25 for me, because those things are concerns. But he's a game changer type player. Jadeveon Clowney. The injuries with him as well. Didn't finish the season with the Titans, had injuries here and there against Seahawks. He shows up in big moments, so he's a big-time player. Can stop the run as an edge rusher at a high level, can get pressure. He was getting pressure for the Titans. He wasn't really getting those sacks, but still has kind of the upside. Speaking of the Titans, Jaron Brown, their off the ball linebacker there. I think he's a freaky, rangy type of linebacker that fits today's game. He can blitz, he can cover. Pretty athletic. He had a little bit of an off year before getting hurt, but he's still very good. He's still very young. Last year he had a monster season. Another off-the-ball linebacker, Matt Milano of the Bills. Very solid linebacker. It's just, there's quite, he's really good, but there's quite a few guys like this where it's like, he's nothing like different, I guess, from a lot of off-the-ball linebackers. So how much value will he get? Corey Linsley, who's debatably the best center in football this year, I don't know if he gets tremendous value outside of the Packers, because sometimes you're as good as your unit. Center's not super valuable. Teams can kind of just find a center for cheap. He had a monster year. He's a really good center. I just don't think teams will value him like the Packers do. We'll see. Anthony Harris a year ago was known as a top-tier free agent safety because he played like maybe the best safety in football last year. This year, he didn't play anywhere near that. I don't know what happened this year. He had more responsibility because the Vikings corners weren't there and the pass rush wasn't there. So he had a pretty tough year, I thought, pretty rough year. But a year ago, he was great. So, if he goes to a team that, where everything's built around him, he's going to make plays. He's going to get his hands in the ball, and he'll end up being, a top 25 free agent. A little scary, though, because he's had some good years, but he's really only had one of that, top 25 type, year last year. And this past season, a little rough. So it's a tough one. Marcus Williams, another free safety. And Anthony Harris at times played strong safety because Harrison Smith kind of plays back and forth. I just prefer Anthony Harris as a playmaking free safety there, just to keep eyes on the quarterback. Marcus Williams, another free safety, another guy that can be a playmaker. Another thing, the thing with him is how will other teams value him? Will they value him as much as the Saints? The Saints played a lot of cover 2 man under, which I don't like cover 2, but cover 2 man under is different. I like it a lot. And that's why the Saints were a good defense as well. But with that, Marcus Williams didn't have a whole bunch of responsibilities, wasn't specifically targeted a lot. And you could say it's because teams feared him. At times they could have, but it's more because of the scheme. He was mainly a kind of like a help guy, not all the time, but for the most part, he kind of just helped corners over the top while they were in man coverage on deep balls. And he's good at it. He's pretty good at it, but it's just other teams will, like, how much do we value this guy? Teams don't really value free safeties that much in general. Some teams definitely do. But there's not a big list of teams that do. And, those teams that do is like, do we have to kind of replicate what the Saints had there? So there'll be some questions. But I like Marcus Williams. I had a first round grade out of him on Utah, so I'm impressed. I'm glad that he's able to play at a pretty high level. Richard Sherman, who has been one of the best corners of the last how many years, lockdown guy. I guess the question with him is, at his age, with the wear, and can he finish the season? Had some injuries recent years, so that's kind of the question there. And corners for me, if you have the ability to, if you're like a corner away, then it becomes extremely valuable. But yeah, I think you build the other things first, things that get pass rush, get pressure on the quarterback, and stop the run. It starts at the line of scrimmage. It starts there, and it starts with, getting after the quarterback, the most position in football. So I'm not going to value cornerbacks maybe as much as some other people do. It's a very important position. You have the ability to, create a lockdown group and finish the last piece of the puzzle, then yes. But on top of that, with the age and the injuries, I think he's still very good, but age and the injuries, that kind of puts him down a little bit. There's a lot of guys that we don't even have listed that we can talk about as well. Bashad Breeland's a corner that I like from the Chiefs. I think he's very underrated. Played a lot of man coverage, was good at it, can come up and tackle, wants to come up and tackle. Very tight in coverage. So I like him too. I think that's a pretty good sleeper. There's a lot of sleepers out there. In free agency. So I'm excited about it. At the same time, the cap number could go down, so teams might not be willing to spend a whole bunch. Some teams might not be able to make moves. There might be some 1 or 2 year deals, more than we're used to seeing. So that's kind of the downside a little bit, but it's a pretty talented group, so I'm excited about it. We have more free agency videos, offseason videos on the way, who teams should sign out of these guys, the best possible fit / signing, who teams could cut to create space. We'll kind of fix everyone's cap space. Kind of already been talking about that on Twitter, how some teams can do that. So make sure you follow us there. But yeah, all kinds of offseason videos and in-season videos. We got you covered here. So you're definitely going to want to subscribe, smash that like button, follow us on Twitter, link in the description, comments for that. What is today? Tuesday the 19th. Our NFC and AFC championship predictions are tonight. Score predictions on Wednesday. We got you covered for everything, like I said. So yeah, thanks for watching. That's going to do it. Goodbye.